Hello, everyone. I would say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because you don't know when people are listening to this. You're listening, of course, to myself, Jill Harvey-Bush, and Jamie Hubbard. And Jamie and I always have a little chat, of course, because we like to catch up, don't we, Jamie, before we
We
start the
do.
podcast. And we were both just trying to decide what are we going to talk about? Because there's a couple of things that I had thought of, and then I said, "Oh, which one should we start with?" So, Jamie, I'm going to give you the choice. Going to put you on the spot. Which
Oh,
one are we
okay.
starting? Which one are we starting with? Are the couple that we just said, "Oh, what about this?" or "What about that?"
Right. Morning, everyone. Everyone, Alex. Hi, Alex. I don't know anybody else that's
There
listening
must
yet.
be a
Just,
couple of other people listening because since we
but then,
mentioned Alex, I've had a
then,
couple more people follow
good.
me on Instagram, which are creators. So when I looked, they obviously follow you.
Right.
So I think what we ought to do is mention maybe if those guys are there would like to be mentioned, then we've got to start mentioning other
Definitely.
creators. Maybe we do that. We have a creator
Definitely.
spot each
We
week.
can. We can at the beginning. Welcome to people and welcome so and so and so and so because they're anyhow. This
Anyway,
I don't
you
know
see
what's
what
happened,
happens?
Jill.
This is what happens.
I
Right,
know.
go on.
I don't know what's in the water at the moment. Well, there's not much water. You're not
No, I
getting
was
much
just
water.
going to say we haven't got any by the looks of this.
Something's going on. I'm recovering. I'm getting my mojo back. I'm doing lots of jobs and things around the house, less in the workshop. And I'm trying to, we've just discussed this, I'm trying to get back into my videos as well. And I've done a really good job. Been on Chat GPT, she's helped. So that's good. Um, we were going to talk about Adler and Freud, and we
Yes.
mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I sent you something which was somebody had done this Instagram post and basically said the basic level is Freud looks backwards at your past, at your childhood, at trauma, at childhood experiences, whatever. Adler looks forward, and the decision was made about 125 years ago to go with Freud because it kept an income generated for therapists and
Hmm.
psychologists and whoever, because they could keep blaming it on the past, blame it on their childhood, keep bringing it up, which actually, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that traumatic if they had a trauma. If, in fact, it is trauma because I know someone who went through something. He went through a load of therapy, and he said, I was doing all right until they brought that back up. I
Yeah.
was managing, not brilliantly, not perfect. I'd forgotten about it, but they didn't just bring it up. They dwelled on things, they said things, they asked more questions. He said, and that all brought all to life. He said, and that knocked me back years.
Hmm.
And that's the Freud method. The Adler, moving forward from here onwards, I'm going to do this, I'll be positive, I'm going to change some things in my life, I'm going to get rid of this, I'm going to get a new partner, I'm going to get rid of that old car, whatever. Moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm a moving forward sort of person.
Well, that's what I said to you. I think that's why I'm more of a coach and an NLP person than I am, if you
Yeah.
like, the counselor and the psychotherapist. I want to make it clear, obviously, I am a coach. I don't diss anybody else's therapy because,
Yeah. Let me do that.
different therapies work for different people. But obviously,
Yeah.
my own belief, and that's why I'm doing like you, my own belief is I don't have to go back and trawl through all of that. And there is research, actually, Jamie, if you look, that can implant false memories. So actually, when you go back, the memory is never the same. Every time we recall something, the memory changes slightly. And
Not surprised.
there was it was a few years ago that I was reading about it, and a lady was doing the research, and she was even aware that false memories can be implanted. And there was something somebody had mentioned about, I think if I vaguely remember, around a swimming pool, an incident that happened, and she was like, "Oh yes, I can remember that." And actually, the person talking to her said that never actually happened. I've just implanted that memory for you.
Okay.
And that if you're not careful, the questioning, of course, you have leading questions.
Yeah.
So if you're not careful by asking questions, you can bring up different memories and try and make people recall things that didn't actually happen. And sometimes this can
Well,
take place. They did it with research where then people, where there's been a divorce or something, um, you know, one member of the family has been having to go about the other, and then the children believe that actually happened. and it can
Yes.
bring problems. And I think there was a case where somebody thought she'd been abused by her father, but she hadn't.
Oh my life.
So, and it was creating by the various questioning, it had created that. So, I'm not saying counselling doesn't work, and I'm not saying psychotherapy doesn't work, and there's lots of other bits to it, not just recalling the past. But funnily enough, it brought up my thoughts about when I did my psychology degree. I mean, it's changed since then. Science moves on and proves different things. That actually we studied Freud quite a bit in the degree and Gestalt, people like Gestalt. Uh, Adler was just vaguely mentioned and then kind of moved on. So even what's my degree 30 years ago or whatever, it was still very much of that kind of
Freud.
ilk. I think things are definitely moving on because you've got a whole load of new theories. You've got people like Gabor Mate now coming out, talking about stuff. But I'm like you, as you know, I'm a move forward. Past is past. I can't
Well,
change
yes.
it. I can change how I want to see it because you
Yeah.
can change your point of view around a
Yes.
memory.
Yes.
And I think that's important that you then start to add in the point of view of an adult. So you see things from an adult perspective, which as a
Yes.
child, you can't possibly see an adult perspective.
No.
So yeah, I'm very much an Adler. Let's look at the beliefs, change the beliefs. What serves me, move forward.
Yeah. So my experience of this is I mean I'd never heard of Adler until a month or two ago. I'd never heard of Adler.
Right.
My experience of this really, the first time I'd heard about therapy was, say, Parkinson on the TV in the 80s. He'd be talking to an American celebrity and they'd say things like, and I've been in therapy for 15 years. And and you just get used to hearing, oh, I've been in therapy for 5 years or
Hmm.
20 years in therapy. And I've never thought about it much since. And yeah, I've had problems and I've had to have some therapy. When I had my therapy, it was a number of sessions to sort a particular problem out. And he said it would be 6 weeks. And then he contacted me and he said, it's 12 weeks. I wasn't paying for it. It's 12 weeks because of this, that, and the other. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. But in that 12 weeks, because there was a time period, he gave me coping methods,
Hmm.
strategies, things to
Hmm.
do, tasks to get on with.
Hmm.
And I used to come out of there feeling on top of the world.
Hmm.
Brilliant. I have experience of people, a couple of people I know, one person in particular, who's been at therapy in sort of therapy for about 7 years, and there's in and out, and there's never any. I said, "Where's the end to this? You're
Hmm.
paying privately for this.
Hmm.
To what end?" Because I had those 12 sessions, and I believe I am, especially now. This was years ago. This was 6 years ago. I am such a much a better person than I
Hmm.
was then. I'm in a much better place. Yes, things have changed. Yes, life's getting a little bit easier as I get to the end of things and whatever. So, but can a therapist just? I mean, if they went through the Freud thing just for money, my thing here is how, if you know enough about therapy and you're helping people out, how does that do for the therapist, knowing that in a way, I'm going to say this, not you, they're stringing people along to keep coming back
Hmm.
rather than curing. Not, I'm not saying curing, rather than so the Adler method to me is just like, this is a no-brainer. This is a
Hmm.
no-brainer. I've got my own childhood things. I don't want
Oh, me
to
too.
be. We all, yeah, you have, I have. We, in a way, and I'm not hiding from them. But if somebody were to do something to get me to remember more, I don't want to remember more. I remember what I remember, and that's it. That's fine. I don't need any gruesome details of things. I don't need all of that. But to move forward, I might need a chat with somebody to help me do this or do that or whatever. So yeah,
Well, it's
yeah,
one
I
of
was
one of the
shocked by it.
expressions that we have within NLP when I trained in NLP is it's bad enough that it happened. What's even worse is that you keep doing it yourself in your head again and again and again
Yes.
and again. And of course, all you're doing is making that memory stronger and stronger and stronger.
Reinforcing it.
You're reinforcing it the whole
Yeah.
time. And then,
Yeah.
unfortunately, what can happen is, of course, that then becomes the excuse for not
Yes.
doing something, for why you are the way you are. I will pick my clients up when they say, "Oh, my anxiety." No, no, no. Stop owning it. It's not a
Yes.
thing. You've got,
Yes.
it's not my anxiety. Okay, you've had some anxiety. Stop making it mine.
Yeah.
And it sounds quite harsh, and as you know, I'm not a fluffy coach. And yes, I've had, traumas in my past. And I was having a conversation with my sister once in the car, not many years ago. So obviously we've had the same similar traumas. Can never be the same because we all experience it differently.
Yeah.
And we both were, she was driving. Actually, we were going to my mum's old friend's funeral in Yeovil. So you're kind of going down and chatting about stuff. And we both were talking about what had happened in our past, obviously, my dad dying and various other things that would be seen as trauma. And we both looked at each other and said, well, neither of us have been in therapy. Neither of us have had to go and have counselling. So do you think we're both bonkers?
Well,
When you
yes.
kind of and of course we both went, yes, of course we are. But it was that thought, and I know times are very different. So that brings you back to kind of going round in a full circle. Are we not making kids as resilient as they were when we were born? My dad, or when I
Yeah.
was, I'm older than you. So when my dad died, I was taken out of school at lunchtime. I was told my father had died, and we all went home, and the curtains were drawn as you used to do in those days. And I remember everybody sobbing, but we went back to school the next day.
Did you?
Oh yeah, straight back to school. And I remember seating, which wouldn't be allowed now, my lovely teacher, Miss Coffee, her name was, sitting on her lap, and Miss Coffee telling the class that I might be a little bit sad occasionally because my father had died the day before. But that was about it. And then we didn't have,
You
anybody
just got
else to
on with
go
it.
and talk to. It was just, I think in those days, a bit like men coming
Oh,
back from the war, wasn't it? You just got on with it basically. So that's where, my sister and I were going, so are we completely screwed up then? Maybe some people would say, well, I've done my own self-development, when I started training as a
yeah.
coach. But I don't believe it affected me in that way. So I'm not dissing it. As I say, I want to make that really clear on here, and it does work for some people, but I think you have to be very clear about what you want from the outcome. I have recently been asked by somebody, their daughter has been seeing a therapist, a counsellor, over some trauma stuff in their family that happened, and she's coming out each time feeling worse, and has actually said to her mum, I mean, she's an adult, said to her mum, this isn't what I want. I want to have techniques that will move me forward. I don't want to keep going back. But they keep saying I need to go back and unpick it because of all my trauma and upset, but I don't want to keep doing that. And I thought that's where I think you have to then, as the adult, say, that's not the right therapist for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you look, and that's where I encourage everybody to make sure you've got the right type of therapy for you, whether it's counseling, psychotherapy, CBT, coaching, NLP. Just make sure that it's right for you. So that, yeah, brings us really through to Adler and Freud. And it was when you sent me that detail, I thought, oh yeah, blimey, I'd forgotten. There you go. I'd forgotten all about Adler from my psychology degree, because that's when I realized we hardly mentioned him. But how interesting that in a way I've followed Adler
Yeah.
in what I do.
Even
And
though you started on the Freud route.
yes, even though the Freud had been the big thing at the time. So,
My sort of finisher on this for me really is the fact that I know of someone who is a therapist and retired and struggling.
mm,
And as I just sort of briefly touched on just earlier, was is it because they sort of know that they're not fixing people? If you are bringing up the same stuff for years and years, and you're seeing the same people for years
mm,
and years, are you doing your job properly? if you're not, if they're coming back to you for
Mm.
and not coping with everything. I know it's a fine line for you because you're the other side of it, but if you're giving them coping strategies, if you're helping them through all of this, and sometimes it is just somebody to talk to. It's somebody
I absolutely agree. That's what I was going to
chatting,
say. It's the person to talk to. And, you know, and
and if they can afford it,
yeah, and that's where, you know, to be honest, a couple of kind of peers within the industry, not exactly mine, have said, Jill, you're being ridiculous. You're like a leaky bucket. You fix them too quickly, and that's why you're always having to look for new clients. And I just thought, I remember on that conversation thinking, wow, that says it all.
I know,
And I
and
think you're right. You know, that sometimes it's just having somebody who is not family, who is not a friend, that you can just talk to and
yeah,
offload. And
yeah,
again, I think you have to be very clear, both as the therapist. I don't call myself a therapist, I call myself a coach. You have to be very clear what it is that you are using that person for. If it
yeah,
is, I want to have a sounding board, actually, I'm going through a sticky patch in my life, I just need a bit of support through that. I just need to be able to talk it through. I need to be able to, you know, questions asked in a different way. I mean, a friend the other day contacted me, which of course, when you do what I do, friends do, and say, Jill, any chance I can have a chat? I just know that you'll be able to unblock me and see things that I'm not seeing by asking me certain questions. And I think that was the clue, is that
yeah.
I'm trained to ask questions that make you go, ah, hadn't thought of that. Oh, yes, well, maybe I could do that. So, yes, is it the old chat, which we don't have? People don't know their
Dining
communities.
table, dining
Dining
table.
table, absolutely. We
Yeah,
always sit around the well, not now particularly because the cricket's on, because so Clive's busy watching the 100.
he's
So,
excused. He's excused.
it's kind of. But Jackson was home at the weekend. Where were the meals? Around the table.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
don't enough.
we don't.
I'm aware of it. Two things I want to mention, and I
Yeah.
will forget the second one. First one is, and I've forgotten both of them.
Talking
Oh, I
about
don't.
just talking to people and and
Right, okay. This is
communities.
your. I've got it. This is your influence. One of my
Oops.
one of my people. Oh yeah, the second one is restoration. So remind
Right,
me of
okay.
restoration. Right,
Restoration.
first one. One of my guys came in and we were nattering, and he said, "I've got this thing going on," and blah, blah. And he said, "And I just think it's this," and I just think, and he said, and he really wasn't happy. He says, "Oh, I can't believe that it was like this and whatever," and he had all of that, and I did a Gill on him. I did a Gill on him. I said, "Hang on, hang on. Have you thought that it's because of such and such and such and such?" No. I said, "Well, why don't you?" And I gave him my. I'm not a coach, okay?
Yeah.
I'm just a woodworker. I'm like the bartender, the person behind the pub, the bar in the.
Or the
You know what I
hairdresser,
mean?
or that's where people talk. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I said this to him. I saw him a week later. I've got to tell you, you were spot on. And it's just that someone that just sees, we all see things differently, and it's just somebody just saying, well, hang on, if this was happening, that was happening, I'd feel like this. And that's why I said, well, it could be that. And he said, you're spot on, you're spot on. The other thing I want to mention is, thinking of Freud and Adler still, if I followed that principle in restoring a piece of furniture,
Mm-hmm.
that would mean I would fix that table leg to a degree, hoping it will fall off again, for them to bring it back and say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the leg's fallen off again. Oh, okay, well, I'll fix it again. How many times would I get away with repairing that leg? No. I've just done a piece of work for someone. And on that piece of work, it's the second time I've done it. And I've said, look, this is going to cost you more than last time because I didn't know fully the circumstance. I didn't know the position of the piece. I didn't know this, that, the other. I didn't know that this might happen. Now I'm making the timber thinner so that it hasn't got the power to break the glass. I'm putting timbers on the back so that it holds the structure together so that it won't expand and contract and break the glass. And I went through all the details, and it's cost you more money. And as they were going through the door, I said, don't take this the wrong way. I don't want to see it again. Okay, that's it. This is not a Freud thing here. I don't. Once I've done a piece of work, I want
Yeah,
it to go. I want to get paid for my services. Please, I don't want it. That's why you do the best you can,
yeah,
and I think that's what you do
yeah.
with clients as well. You do
That's
the best
exactly
you
what I've
can
done. Yeah,
over a period of time, and sometimes, yeah, they might come back for things and whatever,
yeah.
and they might want repeat. Okay, that's fine.
Because every
But
now and then something else crops up in life they want to talk about,
yeah,
and that's, of
I
course,
get
that's
that.
life. But
I
actually,
get
you
that.
saying the word restoration, I quickly scribbled it down so I wouldn't forget the link. Actually, that's exactly what you're talking about in terms of Freud and Adler, because when we restore a piece of furniture, we don't go back and say, okay, how did this break and who sat on it and what was the weight and what was the temperature like and what was the day like and when you take a piece of furniture, it comes in broken. You might say, okay, how did this break? Oh, somebody sat on it. But you don't go into the meter. Well, what size were they and what color was their hair and, what were they doing and what were they saying?
Brilliant analogy.
You take it, don't you, and go, okay, this is broken. That happened. It would be like me saying, okay, my dad died when I was little. That explains why I'm an independent, determined, stubborn, pig-headed, whatever individual. But I don't need to go back and look at all the detail. So it's literally, as you said the word restoration, that's what I do. Actually, that's what we do
Yeah,
is we
the
take the
store.
piece, we put in the bits, the tips that they need. You might put a biscuit in or do a new dovetail joint or do a technique, don't you, when you go to restore it? And then the
Yeah,
piece is fixed and off they go.
yeah,
That piece might come back and a different bit has broken or
yeah.
it needs touching up if paint or varnish or
Or
whatever. And that,
or as the case of those blooming awful
those
chairs I
chairs
had.
you did, yes.
Oh, where I think I've done two or three of them
Yeah,
now, and I've said to him, I've said, just don't. And he told me what the problem was. It was his grandson
yeah,
pushing him back on
said,
his chair on the rug. I said,
yeah,
right, that's the problem. That chair won't take it. You
yeah.
give your grandson the bill of, I think it was 100 whatever it was. Give him the bill. He'll never push that chair around like that again. They're not strong enough. They won't take it.
It's literally, as you said
But
that, I
yes,
thought that's actually the
oh, there you
analogy
go.
is restoration, isn't it? A piece of furniture comes in broken, or a piece of furniture needs, and that's the word updating. So
Yeah, yeah,
actually, what we do is we upcycle it, we update it with whatever, whether we're going to paint it or like I've just done with Jackson's toy box, repaired it, updated it. We don't need to look at the history
no, no.
as to which car hit that corner of your toy box, what happened on that day there that made that little
Yeah.
dent. So yeah, actually, there you go, a good analogy. There we
How are
go.
we doing for time?
We're doing 23 with 7 minutes. So that need leads
Go on.
that leads us nicely into about every now and then we should update ourselves and look at how
Yeah.
we've changed. That came this week, didn't it? When I was out feeding the birds and I had take, the seeds and the sunflower seeds and the dried worms and I'd been putting them to carry rather than all the separate packets. I put them in two old tubs for years and I've carried both tubs out to the garden so I can then feed the birds. And I was carrying them back and I thought, hang on a minute, there must be a better way than carrying this lot. And that's when I thought, since I started feeding the birds, I've now learnt to willow weave.
Mm.
And I've got a little pile of willow weaving seconds, as I call them, practice seconds. And I thought, I'm sure there's that original basket that I did that was oval that I tried some rope handles that would suit this perfectly. And it did. But of course, what we forget is we've updated ourselves the whole time. So
Yes. Yes.
sometimes we're still doing things a certain way, forgetting and not applying what we've learned in terms of whether that's skills, something we've learned around us,
Yes.
so we don't then update and we stay stuck in a certain position. And I just think how many times, I mean, as a coach, and I've said this before, that Christmas is my big reset, reflect,
Mm.
am I doing what I
Yes.
want to do? And I think sometimes you've got to bring in what am I doing and what have I learnt over the past, for me, years that actually changes how I now view what I'm doing now. And that
Mm.
easy example was rather than using two plastic containers, which keep breaking because it's quite heavy with all the peanuts and sunflower seed packets and everything in, oh, why don't I use a willow basket?
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, but
And
how
getting
many
rid of the
times do we?
plastic.
Yes, absolutely,
I think, I
absolutely.
think, I think we do go through things, and we do. I mean, you doing your Christmas thing between Christmas and New Year, updating yourself and updating what
I do it through the year, to
I
be
think
honest,
we
but that's
do.
the big one.
Yeah, I think we do try to make things, and you've probably heard. I think I've actually said it already today, which is um, better version of me. I
Yeah.
want to be a better version of me. I want to be, in a way, I want. This sounds, I want all the parts of me to be the best version of me. Bloody hell, can you imagine? I mean, it's not going to happen, but
Oh no,
you.
no, stop that, you see, and I'd immediately
Oh,
stop
sorry.
that. And
Well,
also I think you've got to be careful by saying a better version of me, because that then denigrates anything that's come before. So I like to think I'm going to have a newer
okay,
version of me.
newer, yes,
I'm going to have an
yeah,
updated version of me, because
yeah,
exactly what I'm saying, we learn all the time. So actually I'm going to update. And I know people say, oh, be the best version of you that you can be. As far as I'm concerned, that's going to be a work in progress till the day I die and they put me in my willow coffin. Please note I said willow coffin.
yes, yes, yes.
Because that's it, isn't it? It's about you know, the version of me in the 70s wouldn't be the same as now because life has changed.
No,
There weren't computers, there weren't phones, there
yeah,
weren't. So for me, it's not about being a better version of me. It's about being a newer, updated version of me
yes,
that keeps up with everything going on in the world and in my own life, i.e., I now willow weave. Oh, Jill, rather than have something plastic, why don't you make
I
something
know,
from
I know.
willow?
That's
And
brilliant.
that's that thing in your head that kind of goes, oh, hang on, I can update this. I can look at this and do this a bit differently. So that's taking in my head a newer version. Because do you see, by saying I'm going to be the best version of me or I'm going to be a better
Yeah.
version, you're actually putting down.
You think that putting down, but I don't see it like that. I just think I'm better, as in I'm getting better as well. Getting being a because I know I wasn't good. I didn't do what I'm gonna do the circle thing
Yeah,
now. I
going to
didn't
close the
do
nested loop.
I didn't do the thing you did when you lost your dad, and I didn't want to, and I didn't want to say it, and I didn't really want to, but I'm going to say it. I don't mind because it's childhood trauma, whatever.
Yeah,
I couldn't go to school. I couldn't get. My brother went at 10 o'clock that morning.
yeah.
My dad had passed away in the middle of the night. 10 o'clock that morning, he said, "I can't sit here and go. I'll just go to school."
Different
Somehow
coping
managed,
mechanisms.
and yeah, he went to school. Now I look at him now, and in a way, I think, yes, coping mechanisms and strategies, but I see sort of chinks in his armor now.
Mm.
I see chinks in his eye, and I'm just like, you're. I've looked up to him, Stuart. It's Stuart. I've looked up to Stuart for such a long time, and it doesn't change how because I still look up to him. What he's done is brilliant. He's 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 great. He's fantastic. But I do see chinks, and I'm just like, oh, is this because for me, I missed a term. I would
Right.
kick, scream, cry. I was in a right mess. I
So maybe you would have benefited from having somebody to talk it through and go through
Therapy
it with
wasn't
you.
around in '77
No,
like
it
that,
wasn't.
like it is now, is it?
No, it
And
wasn't.
you certainly couldn't afford to pay for
Whatever.
therapy. So
Exactly.
no, I've and I don't look back and no, that trauma went on, and that was school, and I think it was the school I was at was quite a strict school. There was quite,
Right.
and I didn't need somebody telling me what to do. Nowadays they have green woodworking and forestry
Mm.
school and all sorts, which I
Mm.
would probably have loved.
Yeah.
Well, I would have,
Yeah.
but no, it was all about.
I,
So
I
anyway,
think ultimately it's different things for different people, and that's why I'm saying we've got to
yeah,
be careful that we're not saying, but also to be very careful that you're not delving into something. Sometimes you
yeah,
don't need to go down deep because it brings up all sorts of other things.
yeah,
And actually, as an adult, you're seeing it from a different perspective and remembering it from a different perspective.
yes,
But it's horses for courses. What suits one person is great. And if that's what you need, then by all means, go and get it. But I think it
Yeah.
is a case sometimes of pressing pause and going, am I getting from this what I need from this? And,
Yes.
I've told a client this week, and as I said to somebody else, talk about a coach financially shooting herself in the foot. I've said to him, take me out the diary as well for the next X number of weeks.
There
I
you go.
mentor a bit there, and
Yeah.
that's it's slightly different. Just no, you're not seeing me. Take me out. Go have an hour's sleep instead, type thing. But
Yeah.
it is also
Yeah.
that it's, am I getting help from this? Is it rewarding me? Am I moving forward? And just to double check. There we go, Jamie. I think, well, we're probably, well, I know, just looking at the stop clock, we're actually on half an hour. How time flies. And there we're going saying, what should we talk about this week?
I know. I know.
So it's thank you to Alex. I'm going to keep mentioning him and all our other listeners because we do have more. I do know that. I do know there are other people that listen to us. And thank you for listening. And as I say, if you'd like to join in the conversation, then either message Jamie or myself. We're both on Instagram, or you can come via, I've got a website, so that, or of course, you can just comment under the podcast. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Jamie, I think we'll practically be into September, won't we, by then, or something ridiculous?
Yeah, I think so.
One more bank holiday before Christmas, as they say. Well, they, meaning me, of course. So you have a good couple of weeks, and I'll speak to you again soon. Everybody else, have a good week as well, or good couple of weeks. And yeah, just keep moving forward, basically.
Yeah. Right. See you soon.
Okay, take
Bye.
care. Bye.